It's amazing when you stop and think about it. Text is everywhere, right?
It really is.
It's how we communicate, it's how our software works, how we find information. I mean, it's everything. And speaking of information, you sent us some really cool stuff this time around. A transcript from this YouTube channel. It's called Code Curious, and they really pull back the curtain on how computers actually deal with all that text, like all the stuff we were just talking about. It's called string manipulation.
Yeah, string manipulation. It's a fundamental concept in computer science.
So that's our mission today. We are diving deep into this Code Curious video, gonna try and extract the core ideas about strings and how they get manipulated, and hopefully give you a real understanding of how it all works, regardless of whether or not you've got a technical background.
Absolutely. And what's so fascinating about string manipulation is that you don't even have to be a coder to see it in action, to interact with the results of it. I mean, every time you search online, every time your phone autocorrects a word, you're witnessing the magic of string manipulation.
Wow. Yeah, I never really thought about it like that. I guess we just take it for granted, don't we?
We do. And I think this deep dive will give you a much clearer understanding of the mechanisms, the engine that's running under the hood of all those everyday digital experiences.
Right. Okay, so the Code Curious video, it starts off with a really basic question. What are strings? When we're talking about programming, what do we mean by strings?
Well, the video gives a very clear definition.
Yeah.
A string is an ordered sequence of characters.
Okay.
And when they say characters, they're talking about a whole range of things. I mean, letters, obviously, but numbers, all those special symbols that we use like commas and question marks, even something as simple as a space.
Right.
Basically, if you can type it on a keyboard, it can be part of a string.
So it's not just words strung together like a sentence.
No, it's any sequence of these characters. Think of it like a digital line of text.
Got it. Okay, so now we know what a string is. Then the video goes into some of the fundamental things you can do with these strings. And the first one they talk about is concatenation.
Right, concatenation.
Which sounds a bit like you're just linking things together. Is that kind of what it is?
That's exactly it. Concatenation, as the host of the video, Sandy Chica, explains, is essentially taking two or more strings and joining them end to end to form a single new string.
Okay.
It's a fundamental building block. You know, they use a great example in the video, the operation concat CS fun, which results in CS fun.
Right.
So you're essentially taking these two separate pieces of text, these snippets, and you're gluing them together.
I see.
And this seemingly simple act of joining text is fundamental to how computers construct complex messages, build dynamic web pages, even assemble lines of code. It's the basis for creating meaningful information from smaller pieces.
Wow. I mean, that's huge, right? Just a simple little thing.
It's a simple concept with profound implications.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can easily see how that could be used, like to combine a first and last name or something like that.
Exactly.
Okay. So concatenation, that's joining things together. Now, the next thing they talk about is substring.
Right.
And that sounds a bit more like you're taking things apart.
Precisely. So the substring operation is all about extracting a specific portion or a subpart from an existing string.
Right.
So the substring procedure, as they outline in the video, requires three key pieces of information. You need the original string, you need the starting index, which basically tells the computer where to begin the extraction.
I got it.
And then you need the length, which specifies how many characters to grab.
Okay.
And they give a really detailed example. Substring, X principles, 3.6 returns cbrin.
Okay.
It's a great illustration.
So can you walk us through how we get to that specific result?
Certainly. So this highlights the concept of indexing, how computers refer to the position of characters within a string. Now, in the Code Curious video, their examples seem to use what's called a one-based index, meaning they'd start counting from 1.
Right.
So a starting index of 3 in App's X principles would actually point to the third character, which is C.
C, got it.
And then a length of 6 means we take that C and the next 5 characters. So we get the C, then the S, then the space, then the PRI, and that gives us CS pry.
Right.
Now the video says CS prin, so there might be a slight difference in their interpretation of the endpoint.
Okay.
But the core idea is the same. You're selecting a start and a length to extract a segment.
Right. Okay.
Now it's worth noting that some programming languages start counting from 0.
Okay.
So that would make the indices a little bit different, but the core concept of identifying a starting point and a length, that remains the same.
That makes sense.
It's just a matter of convention.
Right. So regardless of whether you're starting from 0 or 1, the substring is essentially letting you target and pull out specific bits of text based on their position. Okay,
Yeah.
so we've got concatenation, we've got substring, and then the third operation they talk about in the video is basically determining the size of a string. Is that, am I getting that right?
Yes, precisely. The length.
Right.
And for that, they use the len procedure, which is very straightforward, but incredibly useful.
Okay.
You give it a string, and it tells you the total number of characters in that string.
Okay.
Like, len happy, which returns 5.
Right. 5 letters in the word happy.
Exactly.
Okay.
So knowing the length of a string is often a crucial first step for other manipulations.
Right.
Like, if you want to grab the last few characters of a string, you'd probably need to know its total length first.
That makes sense. I mean, think about how often you see those character limits on social media.
Exactly.
That's basically the len operation in action, making sure that your message fits.
Exactly. Make sure you stay within the boundaries.
Right, exactly. Okay, so we've got these fundamental tools now, right?
Yeah.
We've got joining text together, that's concatenation. We've got extracting portions, that's substring. And then we've got measuring the length,
Exactly.
the len procedure.
Those are the 3 fundamental pillars.
Exactly. Now, the Code Curious video, it goes on to show how all of these things work together in some practical examples using pseudocode.
Yeah, pseudocode, a great way to illustrate the logic without getting bogged down in the specifics of a particular programming language.
Right, okay. So let's take a look at the first example.
Okay, so this first code block really beautifully illustrates how these simple operations can be combined to achieve a specific outcome. So we start with the variable first name holding the string Maria,
Okay,
and the variable last name holding Garcia.
got it.
Then the line temp is assigned the result of substring, first name 1, 1. So remember we talked about that one-based indexing.
Right.
So we're taking the first character of Maria, which is M, and we're storing it in the variable temp.
Uh-huh.
So we're basically just grabbing that initial. Then the next line assigns to the variable name the result of concatenating last name and then temp. So we're taking Garcia and we're attaching M right after it. So name now holds Garcium.
Garcium, okay.
And the final step in this block is assigning to the variable email the result of concatenating the current value of name, which is Garcium, with the literal string CBSOPA.
Okay.
And this gives us garciumxcbs.n, which is the resulting email.
Wow.
Now, it's a simplified example, but it gives you a concrete idea of how these basic operations can be strung together to perform tasks that resemble real-world applications, like, in this case, creating a basic email address format.
Right. So we've kind of seen these operations in isolation, but now we're starting to see their power when they're combined.
Exactly, like a mini program.
Right, exactly.
And this is just the first code block.
Okay, cool. So what about the second code block? What's going on there?
Well, the second code block, that one introduces the len operation into the mix.
Okay.
So in this example, word 1 is assigned the string tigers, and word 2 is assigned elephant.
Got it.
Then len 1 is calculated by taking the length of word 1, which is tigers,
Right.
and dividing it by 2.
Okay.
Now, tigers has 6 characters.
6 characters.
So 6 divided by 2 is 3. So len 1 becomes 3.
3. Okay.
Similarly, len 2 is calculated as the length of word 2, which is elephant,
Right.
divided by 2.
Okay.
And elephant has 8 characters, so len 2 becomes 4.
4. Okay. So now we've determined these lengths.
Exactly.
And then we see the variable first being assigned the result of substring, word 1, 1, len 1.
Right.
So we're taking word 1, which is tigers,
Yeah.
starting at the very first character.
Index 1.
Right.
Yeah.
And extracting a substring with a length equal to len 1, which we just calculated, is 3.
3.
So that means first will contain the first 3 characters of tigers, which is tig.
Tig. Exactly.
Okay, and then we've got the variable second, which is assigned a substring from word 2, starting at index len 2 plus 1,
Right.
with a length of len 2. Correct.
So since len 2 is 4, then len 2 plus 1 is 5.
5, yeah.
So we're looking at elephant, and we're starting at the 5th character.
Yes.
So let's count. E is 1, L is 2, E is 3, P is 4, H is 5. So we're starting at H.
Right.
And we need to grab a substring of length len 2, which is 4. So we take the H and the next 3 characters, H, A, N, T.
Exactly.
So second becomes haunt.
Haunt. That's it.
Okay.
That's
And then finally, the variable animal is assigned the result of concatenating first and second.
Right.
So we take tig and haunt
Right.
and join them together, and we get tie-in,
Tie-in, precisely.
which is then displayed.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the second example really highlights how you can use the length of a string to dynamically determine where you start and how much you extract.
Exactly. It's not just about fixed positions.
Oh, no.
You can actually manipulate strings based on their content and their structure.
That's pretty cool.
It is. And what's fascinating here is the power that emerges from combining these seemingly simple tools, right?
You know, you can start to see how you could build more sophisticated logic to extract, say, a specific part of a web address,
Right.
or reformat a date from one style to another.
Yeah, yeah.
These are the fundamental operations that underpin a vast amount of text processing in the digital world.
It's incredible. So just to kind of bring it all together, according to the Code Curious video, string concatenation is all about joining strings end to end.
Right.
And a substring is just a piece of an existing string.
Exactly.
Those are the core building blocks.
The two key concepts we've explored today.
Right. Exactly.
And, connecting this back to the bigger picture, these aren't just abstract programming ideas.
Right.
These are the foundational mechanisms that allow computers to process and understand human language.
Wow.
Think about how search engines work. They're constantly using these kinds of operations to match your search terms with the vast amounts of text on the internet.
It's amazing.
Every time you interact with text online, these fundamental operations are likely happening behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing when you think about it. And for you, our listener, we hope that walking through these concrete examples of how concatenation, substring, and length work has given you a clearer understanding of what's actually happening when software manipulates text.
Absolutely. These might seem like basic tools, but they're the essential foundation upon which so much of our digital world is constructed.
Yeah, they really are. It's pretty incredible.
And, it raises an interesting question. Now that you've seen how these basic string manipulations function,
Right.
joining text, extracting specific parts, determining their length, what kind of interesting text transformations do you imagine might be possible?
Right. What could you do with this?
Yeah. Consider how these fundamental operations could be applied to analyze large quantities of text data, or even to generate new and creative forms of text-based content.
That's a great question. It's definitely something to ponder.
It is.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the fundamentals of string manipulation. We hope this exploration of the Code Curious video has shed some light on some of the core ways computers handle the text that we encounter every day.
It was a pleasure diving in with you.
Absolutely. And we're always excited to delve into these foundational concepts with you. We encourage you to continue exploring the technology that shapes our world.
It's a fascinating journey.
It really is.